episode of Lie, Cheat, and Steal, the podcast about liars, frauds, thieves, and bullshitters. I'm your host, Pat Royce. Just to let you guys know, we are a bi-monthly podcast, so we're dropping 2 episodes every month. Check them out wherever you listen to podcasts. But if you like what you hear and you want to get some more content, tons of back catalog, and also access to our Discord server, you can find us at our Patreon at patreon.com/lie, cheat, and steal for 2 more episodes every month. Also, ad-free versions of our regular episodes. There's literally no reason to not be on the podcast if you claim to care about us as people. If you want to keep up with just our progression and see clips and see cool stuff that we post about the podcast, you can also follow us on social media. We are on at Lie, Cheat, Steal Podcast on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube. That's where we're at. But guess where I am? I'm here in the Comedy Frequency Studio talking live, not for y'all, but for me with my co-host, Kath Barbadoro. How you doing, Kath?
Hi, Pat. I'm good. It's good to be here with you live in the past.
Yeah,
for our listeners, it's very exciting.
It's live for me, and that's what counts.
If you're a video viewer on YouTube, you may notice we've switched up our background. Big day. We got some red instead of some blue. Yeah. Which Pat, of course, said it's in celebration of our next president, of course. Why we had to switch it up.
Politics has switched, baby. It was a front all along. I actually care about a bunch of shit that I didn't care about before, and I don't care about things that I did.
Yep.
No,
we tricked you for 7 years.
Yeah, it was the long con. We made it through his presidency, the successive presidency after that, and then his return presidency.
Yeah, no, it was January 6th is what convinced us, actually.
Yeah.
We were anti-Trump, but then we're like, you got to admire that conviction.
I was like, dude, those guys are just having fun, man. I didn't have
like a good time.
I had a young coworker at one of my previous job sites who was like, we were trying to find that middle ground where we agree politically. And he was talking about January 6th. He was like, it's crazy. They're even being charged. Like, you watch the video, they're just walking around. And I'm like,
they're tailgating.
Yeah. I was like, dude, I'm not a guy you got to convince to be like, we're going to overthrow the government. Like, you could talk me into that. But I just like, those guys weren't just lounging. That's not what was happening there.
Awesome.
But so how you been, Kath? What's going on your end?
I've been okay. If you're a viewer, I guess you can't tell because I blur out my background, but I'm back on the back injury couch instead of recording at my desk again.
No.
My back is fucked. I got a steroid shot in the summer and it's clearly worn off, and it sucks.
You gotta get the substance again.
I gotta go get the substance, exactly. And at least like it wore off before the new year, because if I had to go back in the new year, my deductible would have reset. So now shit. I can go get another one for free. Yeah. So it's like it's fine. I can go get a free one.
That's like couples who wait to give birth until midnight so they get like an extra day in the fucking
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that sucks. I thought you just chose to be on the couch. I didn't know the couch chose you. I didn't know that was happening.
No, I got my like tens unit on. I'm like, I'm a little fucked up. It's definitely not as bad as it was like the first time. Like, I realized what was happening and like stopped working out, and it's like, it's fine. But hopefully they'll give me like an MRI and figure out what the fuck is going on in there.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, at least there is the substance I can take. So that like, because for some people they give them the substance and the substance doesn't even work. And like, that sucks. I at least can take the substance. So
there's gotta be nothing like more terrifying than terrifying, but yeah, that too. Just like you get a surgery or whatever, like we'll see what happens, and they're like, hey, it didn't work. Like that's man, that's not fun. Yeah,
it's no good. But anyway, other than that, it's fine. It's life. I'm dealing with it. How are you, Pat?
I'm doing good. I come in here. I just had so much shit I had to do after work. I didn't have time to head back to my house. So luckily, I usually have like a change of clothes in the car just because of this, working comedian lifestyle. And so I had all the shit that I needed, but I parked here to come to the studio. I still had my work boots on, dirty pair of jeans, way too big Modelo shirt, and I'm between haircuts right now. Folks, I'm a big haircut guy. Nothing in my hair looking crazy. Also, I had a piece of what's called a mule tape as for a belt today. So I'm walking down. I get here before Josh. I drop some of my shit off, and I was like, oh, I forgot my little change of little shoesies. And so I run back to my car, and on the way back, like now I have no backpack in my hand, nothing signifying. I just look how I look. I'm holding an extra pair of shoes, and I had bought a Modelo from the liquor store next door, and I was like,
Nice.
boy, I look like I sleep behind one of
So
these buildings.
I might get some change out of this
Yeah, yeah,
walk. I might get a few small
yeah.
bills walking down to the studio.
Yeah, it was just funny. I mean, nothing against our unhoused neighbors. I just, like
You gotta look. You
that's
can tell.
that's how that's how rough it is. That's how I know those dudes got it rough. For a second, I thought I appeared that way, and I panicked. You know, what I'm saying? Like I was like, oh
Right.
no. Dude, when I used to work downtown doing construction one time, it was like in the daytime you'd get there when like people who had been up all night were starting to wind down, and they were just they would sleep behind our entrance to the bar we were working at, and like you would go to get something or whatever, especially at the end of the day, there'd be like, I don't know, a girl walking by, and like you don't want to and you're just wearing construction clothes, you kind of look like you might be homeless. So I would swing my car keys on my hand. I'd be like, "Yep, just got one of these." Yeah.
Everything on this keychain, doors, access to places I'm allowed to be. That's what's on here. This is responsibility from here.
Yeah, so I was a little adventure getting over here, but we're settled in, and doing good.
Sweet. Well, yeah, I don't know quite how to segue this. I guess we were talking about the government. Oh, here's a good one. So we're, as we said, we're very excited about this presidency. We're super pumped for Elon to cut all the waste out of the government. It's going to be so efficient. It's so good.
I just found out, I always talk about the last thing. I found out that fucking department was called the Department of Government Efficiency, and it means Doge.
When I figured that out, I was so fucking
I was
mad.
really bummed out about that one, man. So anyways, this government that we love so much. What? How does that tie in?
So this story I'm about to tell you is it's people scamming the government, but it's the way that they're scamming the government is such a common way to scam the government that if Elon was actually going to do something, this would be the kind of thing that he would maybe look into, but he won't, because like they're going to cut like real jobs and then contract out to other people. And this story is about the types of people the government contracts out to, ripping them off.
Okay.
So
I feel he's going to be so much easier to scam. Like if you want to if you just change your LLC to like Epic Bacon or something, like just dumb meme shit like that, he'll be
good.
That guy's clearly on the level. That's a decent business.
But yeah, so this story, most of this research was done by an author named Vince Beiser, who wrote this great Wired article in 2021 about this story. The headline will give you maybe some clues, but the cast of characters in this is wild. So the story is called The Lion, the Polygamist, and the Biofuel Scam. So yeah, we're talking about some pieces of work today. I'm excited about it.
I made biodiesel for like a summer in Connecticut. My cousin was trying to switch all his trucks to biodiesel, and we would go around and get like the fry oil, and like I actually did like titrations and stuff. And I just moved out of Texas, and I was like, dude, I've been out of Texas 48 hours, and I'm a scientist now. That's crazy.
Right. This upward mobility is wild.
Yeah.
Although like Texas, I feel like Texas is like a petro state. Like they probably do a lot of biofuel down here.
I would imagine they do. It hadn't penetrated into my circle yet.
Sure.
But,
so the first guy we're going to talk about here is this guy named Jacob Kingston. There are kind of two main dudes in this story. This is one of them, Jacob Kingston. He's the titular polygamist from this title. So he is a member of this organization in Utah that Mormons generally call the Kingston Group, after the founder, who Jacob Kingston is obviously related to. He grew up in this polygamist order called the Kingston Group. He was the second oldest of 7 kids. They lived in a 2-bedroom house, and he also, in addition to that, had like dozens and dozens of half brothers and half sisters, because his father had like 6 wives.
Okay, yeah.
So, it's this huge extended family. So yeah, like you probably, if you know about, the John Krakauer book, whatever, like there are these little polygamous sects of Mormons that are still around.
Yeah. Right? You get into like the fundamental Latter-day Saints guys.
Yeah, like the Warren Jeffs.
Your Warren Jeffs of the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it's a guy that I wasn't shocked had fucking 5 wives, it was handsome Warren Jeffs. Like,
Definitely no abuses of power going on. Just
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
ladies loving
yeah.
him.
He was just that just the looks, man. He got it all with the looks.
So most of the polygamous groups are like they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, like Warren Jeffs. Like they're sort of up in the mountains in Utah, or like just sort of away from prying eyes. The thing that's interesting about the Kingston group is they're like the big love
Yeah.
polygamists. Like they're in society. They live in Salt Lake City. They dress normal. They have like normal jobs. Um and they're like actually like very integrated into the community and the economy. So it's this huge extended family, right? And they own more than 100 businesses in
Wow.
the region and where they live, which include a grocery store, pawn shops, a casino, a cattle ranch, a tactical firearms company, which was recently visited by Donald Trump Jr. So very cool. Good
Oh wow,
stuff.
yeah. Hence,
Um,
yeah, the lighting. We love this.
yeah. And because they have this big family, like everybody who works at these businesses is part of the Kingston group, and they start them working there really, really young. It's like they are full on doing child labor in
Yeah.
these places.
I mean, people
Um,
forget this was a way that like rulers consolidated power. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
this is like the say what you will about polygamy, but you got 18 wives and 46 kids. You know, like that you're at this point you're a small army. You're a paramilitary group at the very least.
Again, this is like what Elon Musk wants to do.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of doing this, but not with in a religious sense. But yeah, so like every other polygamous group, they're incredibly fucked up. They marry like 14-year-olds off to adult men. Uh, so this guy, Jacob Kingston's dad, was actually imprisoned in 1998 because he beat the shit out of his daughter because his daughter was refusing to marry her uncle. She was 16.
Jesus. Ugh.
So yeah, these people are fucking gross. And
Your uncle's cool.
even
What the hell are you doing? Look at that mullet. You want to marry this guy? Look, he's bitching, man.
So I think it's important to note that even by the standards of the Kingston group, who are pieces of shit, this guy Jacob Kingston was known as a piece of shit in this community.
Oh yeah.
So
when all the pieces of shit don't like you. Like,
yeah, it's no good. It really means some bad stuff about you. So he's a piece of shit. People remember him as like a total bully. He was like really arrogant. He married his first wife at 17, who in a bizarre turn of events was his same age. Crazy.
Oh wow. Trying something new.
Yeah. And then he marries his second wife 2 years later. Unfortunately, she is 15 at the time.
Oh yeah.
So
Oof.
that's no good. She left. So she was interviewed by the guy who wrote this article, Vince Beiser, and she got out like 20 years ago, and she was like, yeah, I had to marry, like my
Yeah.
dad made me marry him. Like I didn't want to. He fucking sucked. I hated
Yeah.
him. So this guy sucks, but he does get a PhD in mechanical engineering in Utah. And by the time he's done with school, he has 6 kids. But he's like, don't worry, I got a business plan for us. I've found out about this like emerging, industry, and we're gonna get in on the ground floor, and it's gonna be great. And that industry is biodiesel.
Oh,
Which,
okay.
yeah. So you know a little bit about it. I vaguely understood what it was, but basically, biodiesel, it's stuff like ethanol. It's like fuel that can be made out of like organic material, like cooking grease, corn, palm, canola oil, and it's used for powering trucks, heavy equipment, heating oil, and yeah, you can. It's the thing of like we're taking the French fry grease and
Yeah.
we're making fuel out of it.
Me and my cousin would do that. We would drive around collecting grease, and I remember one time I was like, "So how do you get these contracts, these restaurants?" He's like, "I just fucking pull up and grab it, bro."
Yeah, they don't want it.
No, yeah, but no, that was actually the downfall of the biodiesel operation. He thinks
Yeah.
because I got there, I made like 250 gallons a week for like 3 weeks until I started my job at AT&T. But like on the last batch, everything like just like congealed inside the machine and it got all crazy and stuff. And so we had to clean it all out and we pulled more out of that same batch and it kept congealing. And then he started like analyzing the batch, and basically he was like, "Dude, I think there's radiator fluid in here, or some kind of like car fluid."
Adulterated the.
And he said that they were like, he said because they have these things set up with these companies that come and get it, and that's like a contract they have with this company. And they were like, "Hey, your traps are empty," and it was my cousin, and like so eventually he was like, "Yeah, I think they put transmission fluid in there to fuck us over." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that was the downfall, was that he did not get the permission."
Man, too bad. He should have done the type of fraud that we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, I've always said he needs more kids. I told him that.
So, you probably know this, but I'm going to read for this part, like the sciencey part. I'm just going to read right from the article. So, thank you to Vince Beiser. It's just I'm not knowledgeable about this stuff to paraphrase. Pat, you can interject with your knowledge if you have it. But the article, Vince Beiser says, to make biodiesel, you mix one of the feedstocks with methanol or some other form of alcohol and throw in a little bit of sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide as a catalyst. The process, called transesterification, separates the oil into glycerin and fatty acid methyl esters, which is the chemical name for biodiesel.
Yeah.
So did you talk about B100 and B99?
I don't know B100 or B99. I just remember that I would put lye, which I believe is one of those the potassium thing that you said. I think that might be lye.
I think that's what lye is.
Yeah, we would put lye in there, and then it would go in it would go to the batch, and then you had to open it, and you would drain out. Basically, the refuse would go to the top, and then the biodiesel would be at the bottom. And we were in these huge, like almost like Gustavo Fring meth lab looking fucking things that were big.
Yeah.
And then we had to open the spout, pour up these buckets, and I would pour up these buckets until it started running like the refuse from the top. And then I'd shut it off. Then I would get that in other buckets, but I would pour the biodiesel into a container and pour the refuse into the refuse. And I would imagine my cousin disposed of it ethically. I would imagine.
So some like information we need to sort of understand the scam here is, so B100 is just 100% biodiesel. It burns cleaner than conventional diesel, less emissions. It's good. It is very expensive to produce, however. So that's why, and if you follow politics, you've probably heard a lot about this. The government heavily subsidizes biodiesel. Partially because of renewable energy stuff. It's like it's cleaner, less greenhouse gas. Also because you can make it out of corn. Yep. And our government, the biggest welfare queens in this country are people who grow corn.
Yeah.
So they were just like, more money to throw at people who grow corn, because that's what most people are doing out here.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I love that when the fuel supply competes with the food supply. That's great when that happens. Yeah. Nothing can go wrong there.
Sets us up for some really good stuff.
Yeah.
So the government, starting in 2005, has all of these subsidies, and different states have different stuff. And there are like two important points of this process where you can get subsidies that are what this guy Kingston is going to end up exploiting. So at the first part of the production, every gallon of B100, the pure biofuel that a producer distills from raw feedstock, is given a, quote, renewable identification number by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Those identification numbers work like carbon credits. Big oil producers are mandated by Congress to either produce or buy a certain amount of biofuel. They can get around this requirement by simply buying the numbers from someone else. So these which may have been what your cousin was doing. You can get these, or I guess he was just using them for his trucks.
He was making, to fuel all his landscaping trucks.
He was making some bootleg biodiesel.
Yeah, he was. This is completely off the grid. We were stealing fry oil.
Sure.
But our friend, R.I.P. Scotty Peterson, for one period of time worked for a biodiesel trading company where his company would broker deals between people who had credits to sell and people wanted to buy credits. And his job was that basically they would pay to hang out with rich people and get them drunk in Vegas, and they would make these deals. Negotiate. Yeah, and Scotty would show up in Austin with the company credit card and be like, "Hey man, I told my boss I was in town to entertain some clients, so I got to make it look like I'm entertaining clients. So one rule is I got to buy all the drinks tonight." I was like, "Yeah." Oh, R.I.P. Scotty Peterson, coolest man to ever exist.
One of the greats. R.I.P. So that's one way you can get money for doing this,
Yeah.
is you sell the credits to oil companies. The second way you can get money for this is after you have the B100, you mix it with a little bit of diesel and sell it as B99. And the ostensible reason for doing this is that B100 is like really thick. It's really
Yeah.
like viscous.
Yep.
And so a lot of like diesel engines can't run on pure B100 because it's too sticky. It'll like gum everything up.
Yeah.
So putting a little bit of diesel in it makes it so that it can have more applications. And B90, and they call that B99 when they mix it. So B99, if you every gallon of B99 you produce earns you a $1 tax credit. So you can sell off the B100 or you can produce the B99 and claim it against your taxes. So
it sounds like there's no obligation for any of this to actually get used as long as like the sale and the credit and the number are being bought. That's
and also following the logical conclusion from that, if it doesn't have to be used, it doesn't even have to be made.
Yeah, baby, we're here.
We're in.
It's the promised land. Oh, just like Brigham Young, you know, like he just this is like that. Oh man, that is this kind of harkens back to the guy who made the portable solar generator. That one, the guy from Martinez, California.
Yes,
it was
this
like
is very similar.
You're
like
just you don't have to. This shit doesn't even have to get used as long as it's being made and it ticks the box and everybody's getting their fucking money. Who cares? What a country, man! I'll tell you.
And it's like obviously, I think like biodiesel is a positive thing, but yeah, it is just frustrating because like all these subsidies there are money. Like it's that we fund that. Like our taxes fund this. And obviously, like I'm happy with my taxes funding renewable energy or like less CO2 emissions or whatever. But like not just bankrolling a bunch of paper pushers. Not doing anything, you know?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I guess I'd be selling biodiesel too if I had 18 wives. I'd be like, I gotta make some bread, dude. Like
for real. You gotta be bringing it in. And also you're like, well, it's if women work, they go to hell. So this is all That's actually not true for them. They not only do they allow the women to work, they make the women work for the men. So they're getting put to work.
That's what we discussed, like Lululemon, or not Lululemon, but Lularoe leggings. Lularoe. It was that was appealing to Mormon wives because
they could work from home.
Yeah, it satisfied whatever niche they needed to like be culturally okay for them to have a job.
Yeah, it was because they didn't have to be out of the house.
Yeah,
so they could
Christ, dodge that bullet.
It's one of the reasons why multi-level marketing is like so popular in Utah.
Yeah,
is because they want women to stay home and raise the kids. So
they got a bunch of little kids that package those leggings. Like no shortage on them either.
Exactly. But yeah, so this guy, before we get into like the bigger part of the scam, this guy does start a biofuel company, you know, with no initial aspirations to rip people off. He starts this biofuel company called Washaki something. What was the suffix for Washaki? I don't know. It was like Washaki. Okay, Washaki renewable energy.
Washakied up with too many ladies. That's what you know what I'm saying.
Exactly.
I'm done. I'm done on that one.
So he gets his family working there. But business is not going well when it starts because the plant that he builds it on his father's land. It's not near any of the raw materials that you need to make biofuel. So he had to pay to get like soybean oil trucked in, and he's negotiating contracts with restaurants, but like he can't get enough in the area, so he has to like keep going further out. And
I feel like there's no way to run a commercial outfit off of just like the restaurants in your area if you live in rural Utah. You know what I'm saying? Like that, I can't imagine that's a sustainable pipeline for resources.
Yeah, so like, and he's getting all the subsidies and stuff, but he's not making any money. So he is like, yeah, I got 1,000 kids at home. He has another wife at this point too. So like, you know, I got to figure something out. And culturally, like the Kingston group, this polygamous sect, they're like, they have no illusions about this kind of stuff. They rip off the government all the time. Like this is totally fine for them to do.
I've heard that in like in Utah, essentially, it's like a thing of like that's a big, I was like fraud, but just like the idea of government assistance for children, and you have a ton of fucking kids. That's not an uncommon thing out in those areas.
Yeah,
And
I mean, that's a big thing they do, especially the polygamists, because, like, obviously the government doesn't recognize multiple marriages. So all of the second, third, fourth wives or whatever say, I am a impoverished single mother.
yeah,
So give me all the benefits.
I noticed about
So
religious sects seem to like not have a problem with that, because I know that's big in like in Hasidic circles in NYC
yeah.
is like
Mhm.
government funding scams. Obviously, everybody rips off the government, but I think there's something when you have a religion behind it. It's like that's where your allegiance is. And like me, I don't like fucking
Yeah.
like the government just because I'm fucking cool. But like they don't like the government.
Right. We don't like
Yeah.
the government for cool reasons.
Yeah, for cool reasons. Yeah, they don't like the government.
for shitty
Weird
yeah,
ass
they,
reasons.
They
Yeah.
think they're above it. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, I just don't fuck with those guys. Yeah, that's just, as respectable a reason as you need.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I think, like, I mean, the commonality here too is just like a resource thing. Like, those are both groups that I was thinking about the Hasidic community too when I was reading this, and like both of those groups are people who feel it is in their religious doctrine to have lots of children.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I'm serving a higher purpose by having more children than I can afford to have, because that's what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do to serve God. So like there's nothing wrong with taking money that I maybe don't deserve by the
Yeah.
government standards, because God is telling me I have to raise all these kids. So yeah, I think that's similar. And like there's just like a ton of that in this community. So, it's again, it's I need to do this to feed my model Mormon family who
Yeah.
are chosen to go to heaven. So like who gives a shit if I rip people off?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't have time for a job. I know how busy I am thinking of various J names. You know what I'm saying? Like, I done ran through Josiah, Joshua, Jeshua. I'm making shit up at this point. I'll be honest.
So initially, he gets hooked up with this guy named Tom DeVonzo, who is only a minor character. We have not introduced the second, the deuteragonist or whatever it's called when you have two protagonists. This guy is an intermediary
I've
figure. His name
never
is-
heard that term, deuteragonist.
I think that's what it's called. Dude. Sorry, listeners, if that's wrong. I
Yeah.
apologize. Someone's yelling at their podcast.
Yeah, known listener Noam Chomsky is like, no, damn it, that's incorrect.
So yeah, he meets this guy named Tom DeVonzo. He's introduced to him. He owns a company called Biofuels of Colorado. DeVonzo had made biodiesel and had it to like sell, but he didn't have the accreditation to get the identification numbers to make the biodiesel valuable for the subsidies.
Heard.
So he hooks up with Jacob Kingston because Jacob has the certifications. So he basically just like does a swap, like an under the table swap with this guy to sell this stuff. And like they do some phony paperwork to make these two companies look like they're connected,
Okay.
So it worked. They got the subsidies, and then after that, they were off to the races. They faked a bunch of other deals. They did the like sort of swap thing where Wishaki Renewable Energy pretended to sell Biofuels of Colorado a bunch of feedstock, which is the stuff they make the biofuel from, like the raw material. So he does all this paperwork to show that he sold Tom DeVonzo a load of feedstock that just never existed. Right? Like it only exists on paper. A lot of this stuff reminds me of season 2 of The Wire.
Yeah. With the canisters and shit.
Yeah.
I can see
With
like
making the cans disappear and stuff getting left on docks, and it appears in the paperwork, but it's missing, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Reminds me of that.
He's like, what I would do is I would get a container and I would have like 40 of my kids in there, and then I would just like put a layer of seed on top and it would hit the scale. And I'm like, yeah, that makes about sense.
So at the end of the year, the two companies had each gotten $2.5 million in tax credits. So, no profit. Who gives a shit? I got $2.5 million off my operating costs. I'm like back in the green,
Yeah.
So he keeps going. He like works with a bunch of other biofuel outfits in the country, all doctoring paperwork, which like again indicates that this is a really widespread problem.
Yeah,
right?
I can
He found
imagine this
plenty of
just
people to
him
work
doing
with.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. He did. It doesn't sound like he had to look too far to get people to run scams with him.
I wonder how many like just legit people are in that circle. I'm sure there's tons, but I'm sure there's
and
enough.
I'm sure they're frustrated.
Yeah. They're like, I just care enough to do this, and let everyone else is just making a mockery.
I don't want the ice caps to melt.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I like seasons. Okay.
So in 2011, Jacob starts like he's there. Though there is a total escalation of like hubris in here that I feel like matches the sort of like entitlement again, the sort of arrogance of like this group of people, right? Like, so he gets he gets going with these scams, and in 2011 he buys $2.3 million of B99 from a Florida biodiesel company. They fake the paperwork to make the B99 look like unrefined feedstock, and then fake more paperwork to look like Washaki had processed it and turned it back into B99. So the thing just sat there, but they've been able to like double the subsidies on it because it made it look like he had produced it.
That's insane. That comes up in so many of our scams and just regular business in general, where a thing is purchased, it sits there, and through a few strokes of a pen, this thing has turned into another thing and has generated like 2 payloads of income off of just a thing fucking sitting there. And like, this is my own thought, but like, how is that different than magic? If you really think about it, like you're doing a spell, you're like, oh, you put this little paper down. If I sign here and I do this and I say these words in this building, bada bing, that turns into $2.5 million, and it's no longer seed. It's now a number, and that number can go make you more money. That's
and the people
ridiculous.
Whose job it is to do that are the richest people in human history.
Yeah.
And that's their job. Like, what the fuck?
That's insane, dude. Yeah. I like
fucking crazy.
I used a cordless saw today to cut shit. And it's like, they're not giving me that goddamn
You're building a building.
Yeah, I'm building a building. Yeah, for Apple. You know what I'm saying? Which also, hey, viewers might notice who follows on social media, there's no more hard hat videos of your boy up.
I got busted.
Yeah, I got busted, dude. It was like, basically, it's all positive right now. It's like, my boy heard people talking around the office, and they were like, oh, you know, the guy who's a comedian out of Capstone has like some of his videos up online. And he was like, dude, if they're having this conversation, I assure you it's not far off from this being like someone's gonna be like, hold on, what? He was like, just delete him now. And I was like, all right, let's go. So
R.I.P.
Good while it lasted.
Those are now legendary lost media.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he does this whole scheme, and then he tries to sell that thing of B99 that didn't go anywhere. He then tries to sell it off to people in buyers in India, like a biofuel company in India. Unfortunately, while the fuel was in transit, which again, this is worth like millions of dollars, right? This B99. While it's going to India, the Indian buyers go out of business and say, we're not taking this. We don't want it. We're not going to pay. We don't have money. We're out of business. So he's stuck with this container of B99 at like a shipyard and has to spend a ton of money trying to get it back and doing all this stuff. So he's like, fuck, I need to find a buyer for this. But it needs to be a buyer who's cool with the fact that it's like essentially black market B99.
Yeah.
You know? So this is where he meets the second main character of our story.
Okay.
Who is like, it's just the contrast of these guys is so beautiful. Yeah. So this guy's a, Utah polygamous Mormon. This next guy is a like high roller Armenian dude from Los Angeles. And I'm just imagining the size of the gold chain on this guy.
Yeah.
His nickname is the Lion.
Nice.
His name is Lev Derman. He immigrated from Armenia when he was 14. He grew up in Los Angeles. And when he was in high school, he started driving a fuel delivery truck. And from there, he sort of rose through the ranks and eventually had his own chain of filling stations, truck stops, and petroleum companies. So he's in the business.
Okay,
energy and stuff. But he is like, he lives the life. He has a Lamborghini, a Maybach, a Rolls Royce, and an armored SUV. He travels everywhere with bodyguards. He's got like all the rollies on his wrist. He's got like a mansion in Bel Air. Like he's doing it up, right?
Dude, that's like, I think of like the Kingston Group guy just being like, Just be like, ugh, this mother. I'm sure they got along, but it'd be funny if he had like tried to look at him like disdainfully, and it's like, just shut up. You married your cousin at 15, you idiot.
Oh no. This guy when he meets this guy, he immediately starts living the life.
Oh, so he flips him. He's like, dude, look what you could do. Yeah, it's not all just.
I mean, this guy has no morals.
Yeah,
he just happened to grow up in a. I mean, the religious community he grew up in is like basically a like sex abuse cult with an old book behind it. Like it's not like he doesn't like, believe in anything,
what if I were to tell you dresses don't have to go all the way to the floor? He's like, what? No, what? That's crazy.
No, he gets like totally won over. But so this guy, Lev Derman, his name is, he is clearly crooked from years before he meets Jacob Kingston. He'd been repeatedly investigated for selling customers watered down gasoline, dealing in stolen fuel, tax evasion, laundering money, assault, and brandishing a gun at a police officer. Which is like kind of sick.
Yeah.
And the bodyguard's like not for show, because in 2016 someone shot his son's bodyguard as he was driving Lev Derman's Escalade.
Oh, so like, shit.
Yeah, this guy is like capital C criminal.
Yeah.
You know?
Damn, that's wild. I might have mentioned it before. I just remember I was in Baltimore one time, and I was at this like this sidewalk bar, and the owner was this little short Greek dude, and he had like $5,000 in cash in his back pocket and a fat knot.
Oh yeah.
And I just remember being like, man, I probably just grab that and get the fuck out of here. I mean, I would never do that, but I was thinking about it. I was like, wait. The fact that this guy is that comfortable with his $5,000 in his back pocket.
You're not making it far.
Those are capital C criminal guys. They're just like, no, that dude's about this.
Again, also reminds me of season 2 of The Wire.
Season 2 of The Wire, yeah.
Yep. So Jacob gets connected to Derman through like a mutual acquaintance in this sort of shady biofuel industry stuff. And he goes to meet him in LA, and he's like, they meet in a trailer behind one of Derman's gas stations with the bodyguards like stationed outside.
Just straight Breaking Bad.
Jacob Kingston is just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's crazy how he flipped him and made him start living that life. Rarely, if ever, would it be like, and Lev met Kingston, and then he started going to church every Sunday. Like,
right.
Yeah, it never wins. It never wins out.
No, this guy liked to party. I don't know if Jacob Kingston got into like maybe he didn't drink, I don't know, but he definitely liked to, like, he's gonna start hanging out on yachts and stuff.
Yeah, who doesn't want to hang out on a yacht? You can be sober on a yacht. I wouldn't do it, but you can do it.
So yeah, they meet, they start working together, and they just get along swimmingly. They're just having a great time. They pull off this first thing, and then they start sort of making a habit of it, where they would do all of the paperwork, like with the last scam, just on like a bigger scale.
Yeah.
Right? So like one time they had these barges of B99, and they just rotated them from port to port along the Gulf Coast and claimed credits on the same batch of fuel more than a dozen times. So
wow, what a great system that they have in place for this whole thing.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
But don't worry, like, so part of the reason they were able to expand this so much is because Derman assured Kingston, dude, I'm connected. Like, we are not going to get, I am in. And according to, so spoiler alert, Jacob ends up flipping at the end of this. So he is like a source for like, some of this stuff.
It would be him.
Yeah. I mean, if it's going to be one of them. But Jacob says, like, he took me to dinner with, like, LA cops, Secret Service people. One time we were hanging out with a Homeland Security guy. Like,
wow.
He was connected.
Yeah.
He did know people. So eventually, like, the implication from Derman becomes, like, you're getting this sort of security and access through me. I'm going to need a little bit of a bigger cut to keep offering you this, like, layer of protection. So Jacob Kingston ends up paying Derman like millions and millions of dollars, but they were making so much money that he was fine with it.
Yeah.
Like, and they were, like I said, they were fucking rolling. So like,
also good on Lev for not like knowing what he had, being like, yeah, you can live this life, you get this protection, but this shit ain't free, buddy. Yeah. That's good for him.
well, yeah. I mean, you gotta make sure you're really trusting the guy you're
Yeah.
doing the dirt with. But yeah, so like Jacob's son gets married, and Dermot throws a party for all these Kingstons, all these polygamists.
Oh,
He
dude.
he brings them to Turkey and puts them on a yacht. They're hanging out in Istanbul. They're partying. They had a week-long stay at a resort in Turkey. And then they're going through the airport getting home, and some Turkish officials rush them to the front of the customs line. They get like VIP treatment the entire way. Dermot was really connected in Turkey.
Oh,
There are
yeah.
literally instances of these two guys hanging out with Erdogan, the president of Turkey.
Oh,
Like
wow.
it goes high up. Yeah. So yeah, they're like living the life. The other is
Sorry, I apologize. Jack, our next guest is here. We're going to put an edit point there. I was just signaling to Josh that he was there.
Sorry, I think I probably have like 15 more minutes. Sorry to our guest.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're good. He's
okay.
chill. Right.
3, 2, 1. So they're living the life. They're having a great time. But some of these other polygamists are like, hey, man, we're back here working at the pawn shop.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't seem cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I still have to show up for work every day at all your numerous businesses.
Right. And like he is giving a lot of money to the order, which is like part of the like ethics of this community is that you do share the wealth. But he's clearly not sharing the wealth equitably. And even the family members that are working for him, the people who are not on the up and up about the fact that they're doing all this fraud, they're getting paid like $11 an hour. Like they're not sharing in the process.
That's gotta suck, man. Because like, yeah, nothing's free. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing is free in this life. And if you're gonna running his entire organization, if you're gonna be using that organization to support that many people, somebody's just gonna be punching in and making $11 an hour. And and that I'm not sure where it's gonna go in this thing, but it feels like that's gonna be that's gonna be who fucking is like, hey, wait a minute, I don't like this, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that ends up being who, at least part of the whistleblowing on this is going to come from somebody like that. So, the next person we're going to talk about is this woman, Mary Nelson, who, and this is like so satisfying to me because this woman was born into this cult.
Yeah.
And escapes. She goes to community college and she meets somebody outside of this group, and she literally like left her house in the middle of the night, and he like waited for her with his car in like like on the outskirts of their little settlement and picked her up, and and they're still married, and like he got her out.
That rules. Big ups to that guy. Big ups to her for having the bravery to even do that. I love nothing more than like when somebody just gets the hell out of something that's horrible. That's a great story. That sounds like an awesome. Good for them.
I mean, and they're fucking awesome because so before she escaped, because she was like college age, she was one of these fucking child laborers working in these businesses, and she worked in the Kingston Order's central office, so she had access to all of these financial records. So she knew at least some of what was going on. She knew enough to be like, there is weird stuff going on.
Like, Jake was like, I should have taught her how to count. God damn it.
Right. And she after getting out is like devoting her life to trying to get more people out.
Yeah.
And like, this horrible thing that she'd gone through.
What do they call them? Apostates? An apostate when you leave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So she talks to her husband about this. They like get some documents together, and they go to the feds, and they start trying to get the feds to pay attention to this company. It takes a really long time for the FBI to like actually give them the time of day. Once they do,
they were in Turkey for some reason. They're like, hey, we can't get around to that. We're having some fun in Turkey.
On this yacht.
Yeah.
So, eventually the FBI is interested because there's no way that this plant, like, because again, they're ostensibly saying that all of this biofuel is coming out of this one little shitty plant in Utah.
Yeah.
That's the cover story, right? And it just doesn't make any sense because there's not enough like equipment to produce the millions and millions of gallons of biodiesel that they on paper say they're producing, right?
Yeah.
Like every like shipping container or whatever of biofuel they produce, they're selling back and forth a dozen times. So like on
Yeah.
paper, they look a dozen times bigger than they actually are.
Yeah,
Right?
it'd be like pulling up to like the Microsoft headquarters and it's in like a strip mall and you're like, this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the FBI starts investigating, the IRS starts investigating, the EPA starts investigating, everybody's criminal divisions are on this. And Derman, I think probably because his network is fairly extensive, all of these people that he like has in
Yeah.
his pocket, he realizes that they're getting investigated. And he starts bringing people in, telling him he knows there's a rat. They have interviews with people who work for him and they're like, I absolutely thought I was going to get shot in the back of the head. Like,
Oh shit.
no
Yeah.
question. Like, this
Isn't
guy
just-
is a criminal.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a criminal.
Yeah, you got to go talk to your weird uncle's Armenian mafia friend. And you're just like, we just want you to answer some questions. That's all we got to do. Yeah, you don't know if you're walking out of that.
And I mean, look, even fucking Jacob Kingston was threatening people.
Yeah.
Like there are quotes in here of him making some not as direct, but some pretty indirect threats at people.
I will marry you. I'll marry everybody in this fucking room until I find out.
Exactly. So, but again, like these people are just, they're addicted to this shit. So even though he knows he's being investigated, they're still doing dirt, right? So in March 2015, Washaki said that they had made $164 million in IRS credits for 2015. The next year, they file for credits totaling $644 million, $510 million more, something like that, than what they said the year before. Which is like, of course, that's impossible. Like, unless on your taxes you're also declaring like huge infrastructure updates.
Yeah, it's like dude, I built a new room to that's where it all came from. Yeah.
So, like, just absurd. Like, no. You know someone's onto you. Like, shut it down.
Yeah,
haven't you made enough money? Like, shut it down. Go dark for a while.
Yeah, you know how many documents you can shred and you have 1,800 grandchildren? Like that's just...
That is exactly what is about to happen, Pat.
Yay! Yes, I love when I do that.
They get raided. The Salt Lake City IRS office raids them, but Jacob gets a tip right before they raid them that it's about to happen, and they get all those little Mormon kids out there shredding stuff. Yep.
Many of whom have never seen a paper shredder. Like, this is a first for everyone.
The IRS says federal agents found computers that had been wiped or recently replaced, empty desks, empty bookcases with dust outlines where binders and other documents were recently stored.
What was here? Nothing. There wasn't something right here where there's a fucking dust outline.
Something legal, probably.
Yeah, it was probably probably something that's allowed, I would imagine.
So after the raids, Jacob goes to Vegas to meet with Derman, at his like high roller Vegas.
Dude, meet somewhere else. Dude, we're in trouble. Let's meet in fucking Reno. Like why are we going to Vegas?
It's so cliche. Like Jacob has to strip to show he's not wearing a wire. Like they do. It's just the classic third act. Everything's falling apart thing,
He's got the fucking like the I'm wearing a wire note, but he just strips and he has written I'm not wearing a wire. And he's like
it's a good bit. It's a good sketch idea.
I just wanted to like really send it home. I'm not wearing a wire, dude.
So the investigation progresses nonetheless, and they do eventually arrest Jacob Kingston. Because the investigation is primarily on Washaki, right? Yeah. So they arrest him and his brother and his wife, because it's his whole family working there, right?
Yeah.
So they arrest everybody, and threaten them with jail time and everything. So they decide we're gonna flip and we're gonna all testify against Derman in exchange for lighter sentences.
Yeah.
So this. Just to give an idea of how like well connected these people are, after this comes out, because this is huge. Like this scam amounted to probably $1 billion of like taxpayer.
Wow.
Like crazy.
That's insane. Yeah. And like and it was all technically meant to help, like it to be good. And
Right.
yeah, man.
But this is how like sort of well connected they were. So after this happens, which is like in the late 2010s, this starts ramping up. I think they start going to trial in like 2019-ish. In February 2020, Belize's prime minister-elect resigned over allegations that he took a $50,000 bribe to help Derman get citizenship in Belize. So the head of Belize
Yeah.
resigns because of this. President Erdogan is reportedly petitioning a Turkish court to have a picture of him with Jacob Kingston removed from news sites. So this is like Elon and Ghislaine.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like,
Heads of state are starting to be like,
Yeah.
like they got to distance themselves from this. That's wild.
there's an offshoot case of a bribery scandal because so this lawyer in Beverly Hills pled guilty to bribing federal agents on behalf of Derman. One of those agents is being tried for, for accepting that bribe. So all told, we're getting to the end of this here. This is like, I think, one of the higher sentences we've dealt with on this show.
Okay.
The sentences they got. Derman was found guilty of 10 counts of mail fraud and money laundering. He got 40 years.
Wow, that's high up there.
Jacob, his sentence got reduced, right? Like, because he cooperated. He got 18 years.
Damn, imagine cooperating and getting 18.
Sentence reduced to 18.
That's still,
brutal.
I don't know if I would cooperate at that point. He's like, how old was he?
That's a good question. I think he was like in his 40s.
I guess you forget that life goes on after that, but like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. The cooperation sentence reduced to 18 years. They had
him dead to rights. I don't think he
you can't do shit.
So.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, so they personally laundered more than $100 million.
Wow.
So again, when you telescope that out to sort of like the loss of, with all of these like exponential, like we were talking about all this money magic.
Yeah.
It affected $1 billion. They made $100 million. Yeah. So like, this is crazy. I think part of the reason their sentences might have been so high is because they ended up embarrassing all of these like, powerful figures,
Yeah, at that
Not
point.
that the U.S. government cares about Erdogan, but like clearly they were connected,
Yeah. Yeah, damn, they're swinging above their weight class on that one. That's insane, man.
Yeah, this is what happens when, like, it's two pieces of shit from such different piece of shit backgrounds. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, bringing their like piece of shit knowledge from two sides of the world together. It's kind of beautiful.
It's like the Predator arm handshake meme, but it's just two turds.
I feel like it would be a wonderful movie just because it's such an odd pairing.
This is great. This one is a lesson to not get involved in the high stakes, shady world of Mormonism. That's
right. Exactly. Yeah,
I think it's crazy.
Who knew the similarities between Armenian organized crime?
Yeah. I think it's crazy how the Armenian gangster, his life would have been better if he never met that Mormon. And like generally, it feels like that's a flip on that.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Damn.
So yeah, that's the biofuel scam. You can read more info about it. The Lion Polygamist and the Biofuel Scam by Vince Beiser in Wired 2021.
Wow, that was excellent. Thank you so much, Kath. That was for telling us that story.
Course.
Worth it. I'm gonna say. I feel like they could have made that worth it if they wouldn't have got greedy.
If they just knew when to back off, and if they weren't so like flashy about it, like just make your money. Don't go hang out with Erdogan. Just make your money.
Also, that's not a cool guy. Like I wouldn't want to be like, damn, I hope I can clear 100 million this year so I can hang out with the fascist fucking ruler of Turkey, my hero Erdogan. I have him on the cover of Tiger Beat right here up on the fucking wall, like a big Erdogan guy.
Doesn't seem worth it.
Damn, that's wild. Well, shit, Kath, thank you so much for telling us that story. Guys, let us know in the comments what you thought about it. I've never said that before. Let us know what you thought about the comments. If you're watching this online, go ahead and like it. Just throw some love. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys liked what you heard, like I said, we do 2 episodes every month. That's wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're digging it, you're like, damn, I want to listen to Are we at 100 yet? Is upwards of 100 episodes?
Oh,
Yeah.
Upwards of 100 back episodes. 100 scams you haven't heard
100
yet.
scams you never heard shit about. You know, saying things that have never been across your plate had it not been for us. So go back and also get you access to our Discord server, which is full of like-minded individuals who love to talk about scams. That's going to be at patreon.com/lie, cheat, and steal. Catch us online, and we're on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Lie, Cheat, Steal Podcast. That's where you can find us. In the meantime, though, guys, I hope your holiday season is going great. I hope you're not neck deep in a fucking biodiesel scam with a Mormon and an Armenian. And if you are, tread lightly. Aside from that, guys, be safe, be smart, but above all, don't get caught.